You're listening to Innovation for Alpha, where we explore everything at the intersection of healthcare innovation and finance. Through our discussions and interviews, we keep you informed and educated about healthcare innovations, next-level venture investing, and everything involving the combination of the two.
Hi, everybody. This is Tobin Arthur with Innovation for Alpha, and I am joined by two fantastic executives with a company that I have become very excited about. And they're going to tell you a little bit about it. But Sean Ring and Alex Lagerberg are the gentlemen behind the management team, as well as others. And the team is split between Dallas and Denver primarily. And I've gotten to know them over the last couple of months and become very excited about the technology that they're building and the way that they think about this business. And I'm going to introduce Sean first. Sean, why don't you just tell us a little about your background, introduce the company, and then we'll have Alex introduce himself as well.
Thanks, Tobin. And it's glad to be here. I can think of our first interaction. You put me through a meat grinder, really testing company strategy, our funding, and what tech we brought to market. I just recall that first engagement. And I remember walking away going, man, Tobin's tough. And at the same time, having you invite us really says a lot to what you're seeing, but for me and the value, I know you're connected to the markets. Glad to be here. I'm the CEO of Avodah. We been in business about 28 years myself in two other startups. First company I took to market grew to about 130 million in revenue before we had an exit for the investors. And it was tech-based startup. I'm not foreign to that. Along with my technology officer and our teams have worked on service-based businesses in many markets, not only in the US, but in Singapore and the South Pacific as well. And got 4 kids, been married 30 years this May.
Wow, that's great.
So you don't look like you could be married 30 years. It must have been you got married at 5 years old.
You should see what I looked like 30 years ago.
Well, 30 years ago, I had hair, so that was a different time for me as well.
Alex, tell us a little bit about your background.
Alex Lagerberg, I'm the Director of Strategic Partnerships. I have startup experience as well. I've started 3 different companies, and one of them we took public, and I was the CEO of that public company. So I have experience in investor relations and particularly just chatting with people and just being able to explain the story, which is that's my most fun right there, because we have a great story to tell.
You do have a great story to tell. And Sean, why don't you just walk through a bit about the technology, explain what it is, and then we'll get into kind of where you guys are in terms of the here and now.
Yeah, we primarily function in the area of artificial intelligence. Now that's a big word, and you can put it in a lot of different things, and it's been around a long time. So specifically in our space, we take computer vision, which is the video camera in a 2D format, not just only in other formats, but 2D. And we do neural networking and deep learning all live in a video conference feed. While we're doing that, it's our platform. We bring insights to both the patient and the doctor in unique ways. We consider ourselves a next-gen telehealth network that can bring power both to the patient and doctor. Of course, we do other things inside of that manage workflows and keep it simple for the staff to use and grow with. But our power is the technology resident live between the patient and the doctor.
And this isn't trivial technology that, a lot of telehealth companies, Sean, as you know, it's a big market, it's a growing market. There's a lot of players in the space, though much of that market is filled with companies that have fairly light technology, frankly. There's a video conferencing platform with a little bit of workflow. That's not the case here. There's some deep tech under this, and you guys have patents or patents pending. Can you just talk a little bit about the IP portfolio that's growing?
Yeah, our IP portfolio today is issued. We have roughly about just over 20 patents with around 20 claims apiece. We've got other patents pending and new patents being applied for today. We're applying some new computer vision based tech here just recently in a new pilot we're launching. And it's backed by artificial intelligence and how we're doing the data store and the neural networking.
So let's dig a little bit into that vision component, because it's central. It's kind of how a lot of this originated. Talk specifically, what does that mean for the provider on the one end? What's going on with that? Give us some tactical examples.
Yeah, just be very, very blunt. And many of the doctors who are hearing this already know this. When you're dealing with a patient on the other side, there's a lot of issues, lighting to ambient noise to unclear. They're not looking at the camera. You can't really understand what's going on. Most of it's a oral conversation with some level of a visual that represents the person on the other side. And it could be a halo effect. There's a lot of different things. And so the idea that you can have the same quality of a visual visit using a telehealth platform as you would in a brick and mortar patient room is unheard of. And the reason for this is the telehealth networks aren't using technology to enhance that video call. They're not bringing in the clarity and visibility as just a basic service to the docs. It's just a video, and they're providing some level of an oral communication.
What are the kinds of things that that enhanced analysis provides the provider? And I assume this is being received in some kind of a dashboard, or give us a little sense of what that looks like on their end, but let's get some examples of what that pulls out.
Yeah, so we do some basic principles, and that is just adjust lighting. Very simple, can now see the patient. We cut out ambient noise, so you hear directly from the patient and patient only. But that's not where the power stops. Most of the power is my ability to do things like see your heart rate by looking at your eyes. If you've had a level of stroke and I've created a baseline of mobility from you, and over visits over time, I see improvement in that in that paralysis, I can actually put it up into the doctor's view and let the doctor know there's been a 5% increase in mobility on the right side of their face. I can look all the way down to a pixel on that face to give that identity. We can do temperature. We can bring up a level of emotion or concern. We do live transcription. We have a language division that takes that sound that they're receiving and transcribes in real time for the doctor, as well as language translation, up to 53 languages on the platform.
That's super interesting, and there's a lot of ways that could be leveraged, certainly. Let's talk a little about, so fast forward, you guys are now in pilot. You're building out that pilot program, looking for more sites. What kind of provider practices are you working with, and what kind are you looking to work with? What's the next 6 to 12 months look like in that respect?
We're wanting to work closely with entrepreneurial docs that understand tech before it's there. In many ways, we've heard that old adage. If you talk to Henry Ford, he said you would ask the people what they want. They just said a faster horse. And he's actually bringing something that's going to leapfrog the current need in the current environment. This technology has the ability to do just that. And we're looking for doctors that can see that and drive the outcome to the product. Now, we are working with primary care and concierge docs today in our current pilots. We have earmarked other specialties, not just primary care. So we're still looking for primary care docs to partner with and pilot, but we're also looking for some key areas like cardiology, ENT, orthopedics. These are growing environments that computer-assisted translation and artificial intelligence can assist telehealth calls so that the doc can either lower costs or increase revenue.
So what would that look like for a physician who is interested, who is tech forward and understands the opportunity to have their fingerprint on something like this? Does that look like it operates alongside a current telehealth solution, or you want them to use this exclusively? And how long, do you expect this pilot with them to last? Just give us some of the specifics of what it would mean to work with you guys as a pilot center, and then also maybe walk through the next 6-12 months in terms of what are the key technical milestones. We'll get to the business in a minute, but the key things on the product side that you're looking to continue to iterate on in the short term.
Yeah, first of all, what we're not looking to do is disrupt the practice. That's our primary goal. Our second is to bring in effective technology that can increase the revenue and decrease costs, and streamline their workflow. So the pilots are structured to be a partnership with that practice. So I'm looking for a doctor to connect with that we would then look at their workflow, pick a specific niche within that practice, run a few tests, provide some feedback where they start to kick the tires on the technology. The technology is not raw. It's already built. The wrapper's in place. There's video conferencing, there's scheduling, there's EMR integration already baked in. And each practice has its unique components, whether it's insurance walk-ins to triage to wellness. And some of those practices require different things in those telehealth calls. And what we're looking for from that doctor is a little bit of an idea, what would enhance his practice to both generate money, but also increases patient satisfaction. And so that engagement looks like a phone call right now between myself and that business owner, two business owners talking about the goals, the objectives, how it could assist and not disrupt their practice. And then ultimately we put a timeline on that pilot. It's got a start and a stop. It's got clear goals inside that pilot. Obviously the pilot's there to win their business and to hopefully be able to move patients and onboard them over time. However, realistically, and we do not have unrealistic expectations, is we want to be able to win that business by having a low risk engagement between us and that practice.
Well, and for sure you want testimonies out of that because you want their business and their usage to turn into hundreds of others. Yep. And over time, I imagine, as you do determine what other specialties really can best benefit this, you'll announce those, you'll be sharing with those, because we'd love to continue to pull folks in. But what are the ones, beyond primary care, what would say the next two or three that you feel strongly about?
Yeah, and I'm just for clarity, you're looking for the practice description, right?
That's right.
Cardiology. Yeah. Cardiology is key for us. I'd like to see that next. It is something we can help in, both in looking and managing longitudinal information like EKG readings over time, and be able to pull the anomalies and decrease their costs and how they're evaluating, so they got better visibility. At the same time, we have opportunity in primary care with regards to hospital and next step, and there's opportunity works with some of the bigger players as well.
Let's shift a little bit to the business of the business, and let's talk about where you see this business, going out a little bit further, because in the near term, you're focused a lot on product, but over the next 2 or 3 years, where does the business head? What does success look like? And then ultimately, where does a business like this end up? As I mentioned earlier, there are some large telehealth companies that have gone public. There's a whole lot of them that are sort of the next ring down. Talk to us about the business of the business.
Yeah. So most of our technology exists within a wrapper today. That wrapper is a telehealth wrapper. It looks like a telehealth. It talks like a telehealth. It's built to manage telehealth and digital remote health workflows. So you have just basic things like how to connect, scheduling, EMR data integration between the two. The power of the tech is interaction between people and sitting the technology between the two people. Now, we can apply and plug into a group like Teladoc, or we're actually talking to several other groups in senior home care with regards to, they already have a network, they already have patients, they already have docs, they're wanting enhanced in their current business model and in their current model. And we can plug in on the backside. Ideally for us is, it's one thing to say, hey, we're bringing cars to the market and nobody's seen a car, operated a car. It's a world full of horses. So nobody has a concept of what a car does today in the medical space. So what we did is we focused on picking our first road, primary care, introducing some of these new concepts that would lower costs and increase revenue, while increasing the patient experience at the same time, as well as the healthcare provider, and show the novelty of how it works in a live environment. While we're there doing that, it's not for the purpose of just bringing on new healthcare providers. We see over the course of the next year 2, year 3, year 4, where we're coming behind big networks and we're putting the technology that's already live in a network running in flat video conference, and we're now bringing a souped up engine that connects directly into that flat video conference and enhances that experience, both for the patient as well as the docs on those networks. And there's a big revenue flow we can plug into. And we see that on the insurance space, Blue Cross Blue Shield, even to the EMR integrators like Anthem or Athena, excuse me. And then you've got of course, the Teladoc networks that are already out there. We believe in the technology. The docs wouldn't be paying for it today in our pilots if they didn't see it, kick the tires, and then agree to pay for it, and then they're even paying, I got a couple docs paying their staff overtime to make sure that they get them trained because they believe in it, they like what they're seeing. So we see that level of commitment. I know for a fact, once this stuff starts going public, we're going to be seeing a world full of cars, not horses, in the area of remote healthcare.
It's really interesting because you're describing that there's a direct pathway with the technology that you've built out, the workflow, et cetera, but also a potential for this to be the Intel Inside for those other players in the market. So you guys don't have to choose. You can be both. That allows you to grab more market share, multiple streams of revenue. Now, I know just from our conversations, you guys are at the tail end of an early investment round that's already completed, but you're going to oversubscribe that round. Talk to us a little bit about that, because I know your interest is in having as many individuals that would be working with you to build out this business and the technology versus just institutional folks that are going to write a check. Talk to us about your goals there.
Yeah, thanks, Tobin. I'll say again, thank you for allowing me to be on a platform that speaks to the people we serve and bringing a tech that would enhance them. It's our desire, my desire specifically, not to see the remaining part of this round be invested in by institutional funds, but by those who actually use the tool that it impacts firsthand. And we are on the tail end of a round. We're closing it, and the reason we're closing it is because we're moving from a level of risk pre-pilot, prepaid pilot with healthcare providers into a paid environment, and they're willing to pay for the product. That changes my product's risk profile. It also changes the level of discount that we're giving on this particular round. So we're doing one last invitation to bring people in on the backside. Would like to see physicians in on that for the purpose of getting them in early and getting the discounts that we're offering. But more importantly, we have pilots going, and this round was just to get us to the pilots. We're moving into beyond paid pilots now into marketing and sales, and that'll occur shortly after this, and the risk profile changes, of course, at that point.
Let me throw this to Alex. Alex, you have dealt with a lot of the investors. You're hearing the feedback as to why they're interested in this company. What are you hearing? What are the reasons why people have gotten involved?
It varies, but it really primarily falls into three areas. One is barriers to entry of other companies doing what we do, and we have 12 issued patents in regard to natural language processing, integrated computer visioning, and machine learning. Another one is health equity. Many hospitals, for instance, are dealing with the whole health equity situation in regard to language translation. So physicians can clearly communicate exit instructions to patients, can communicate to them in emergency rooms. And that is our sweet spot. That is one of the areas of our 12 patents. And I think it's an area that's really important. Another area that they really like about Avodah is that we have a seasoned management team. We don't, Sean has had a number of other startups that he's taken, grown up and sold, up to 9, I believe, at one time. So we aren't beginners at this. I've started companies on my own. The chief science officer is a double PhD, and he's had a number of different companies he started. So we aren't neophytes. We know what to do and what's next. And I think that there's a lot to be said to have a company in our progression where we've raised $5.8 million and we have a $1.2 million amount to close on the seed round. There is so much interest, and there are so many investors who, they see the value quotient. They not only financially, but they see what it can do for people and how it can improve their lives and make not only the physician's life easier and maybe more profitable, but the patient's life better and more comfortable.
I'm glad you brought up the amount, because I wanted to highlight the fact that this is not just getting started. This is a company that's very mature at this stage. And I think, Sean, as you indicated, you're at an inflection point that I think is a very interesting time for people to get involved. A lot of the operational and technical risk has been extracted. I mean, there's always still challenges ahead, but a lot of it's been extracted, and there's some substantive capital behind this at an early stage. And so the next stage, from what I'm hearing from you, is completing the pilots, continuing to expand that market base. And so you move into more of a growth and a commercialization stage over the next 12 to 18 months. And so folks are getting to, in this particular round, invest really at that seed level where it was still proof of concept, but they're getting the benefit of the fact that you're on the porch of commercialization. And so that's an interesting inflection point for any investor, whether it's an individual or an institution, frankly. There's tons around this story that we could cover, but in the interest of time, I just want to open the floor back to you, Sean, first, and then Alex, if you've got anything to add as well. Anything that we've not talked about that you think is germane, both to a potential user pilot site and or somebody who's interested in looking at the investment opportunity, or both?
Yeah, I'd like to just, we've covered a lot, Tobin. Thank you. I think fundamentally, I'm most interested in working with a doc that wants to explore and grow around the ideal and around the idea of remote healthcare and telehealth, and speak into a product while we're iterating into the market. I think there's a lot to be said to, before the concrete dries, to be able to speak into something that would impact their practice. And I want to invite the doctors that are listening to this to contact us. I would love the opportunity. I think location for us is not critical. Like you said, Tobin, we have offices in Denver and in Dallas. We've been working with docs in those two states as well as in Arizona. So we have opportunity to expand or focus outside of there. We're not just interested in looking at primary care, but specialty care. There are a number of opportunities that are floating out there. Again, would love just to open up the conversation and see where that goes. It'll be key that we pick the right partner and be able to focus on that pilot. So Tobin, I've been asked by multiple doctors in several visits, hey, how do you pay for something like this? I mean, at the end of the day, I'm looking at a telehealth platform. It's a flat video conference feed. I mean, in the current regulation, I can just slap on FaceTime and I can deal with my text messaging. And I'm trying to do what I can do in the current environment. It'll probably roll back. I'll have to deal with HIPAA. I get that. But you start throwing tech live in the middle of the feed. And I'm wondering, how do you pay for that? How does this help not only us generate money, but keep you alive to the point where you guys actually can keep my practice alive? And it's a great question. When we ran the numbers pre-COVID, and this is before the market got hit, and you see this huge 25x impact to the 5-year projection on healthcare and rural healthcare that McKinsey and Company was touting along with the other groups. And we're still seeing that growth, by the way. Of course, Biden only strengthened that with the Office of Telehealth and the expansion of his Medicaid, Medicare law and rural healthcare. But when you see all of this, what we did is we went back to pre-COVID pricing, pre-COVID compensation. And we looked at the coding and we said, okay, let's run our numbers in that environment. Can we save the doc money, generate more revenue for him, and sustain a model? What's only transpired, by the way, we ran the financials looked good. We sustained a model that now with the new CPT codes, not only are we able to position ourselves and not hold any risk in staying in the market, the amount of new revenue that's being given in triage and wellness in the new coding, new tech and automation actually opens the practice to new revenue they can't do today, simply because they don't have the technology resident in the telehealth platform. And what I'm excited about is when the docs find out that we have technology that allows them to stay out of the hamster wheel, not pull on their current staff, but yet trigger the codes and increase the wellness for their patients and increase that patient care, you'll start to see more of what Dr. Russick's doing in Denver, and that is pay his staff overtime to train them so that they can get this technology in their practice. So excited to see the opportunity here, but it is a question we get asked quite a bit. And it was one I had to ask and answer prior to raising funds and money to get into this market. And we've done that on a pre-COVID number, not a post-COVID environment, which is much more lucrative going forward. Thank you.
You bet. Alex, anything you want to add to that?
Well, I think, I've had an opportunity to work in a number of different type of situations. And I think the thing that intrigues me and that I'm most proud of is that this management team really works together well. That has to do with Sean's leadership, but also has to do with the experience on the management team themselves, and that they understand what hard work it takes to move a company forward in a startup kind of environment. We're frugal, and we're prudent, but we spend money where we need to, but we are making progress. And the team is, I think, is very, very strong. And I think that differentiates us in a big way. It's not just the CEO, nothing to detract from Sean because he's an awesome CEO, but the rest of the team makes the wagon, puts the wheels on the wagon. How about that?
Well said. Great points, Sean and Alex. Thanks for sharing those. And as always, I really enjoy talking with both of you. It's a great little company that's soon to be not so little. And that's the fun part about it is you guys are right at that cusp. And we look forward to seeing it grow. We'll get some of the information that you want to share in terms of how to reach you and some of the particulars into the show notes for people that are listening or watching so they can reach out and connect. And we look forward to seeing the company explode in the coming months. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Tobin. We really appreciate this opportunity.
See you again soon for the next episode of Innovation for Alpha. Make sure to go to Innovation for Alpha for access to prior episode links, show notes, and other valuable resources. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any investment decisions, please consult with a professional. This show is copyrighted by Angel Indie Media, and written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.